In the small village of Everbright, Christmas had always been a time of unity and joy. The houses were decorated with twinkling lights, the children ran through the snow-covered streets, and the church bells rang at dusk, announcing the approach of the most anticipated celebration of the year. For many, it was a time of peace. But for Liam, this peace had always been accompanied by an inexplicable emptiness. Ever since he was little, he had felt that there was something else in the world, something that others didn't seem to notice. While his friends were busy preparing for Christmas, Liam spent hours watching the night sky, fascinated by the stars. He felt that they whispered secrets, as if they wanted to reveal something that only he could understand. On the night of December 20th, something different happened. A star appeared in the sky, brighter than any other. Its brilliance was not only intense, but it seemed to pulsate, like a beating heart. Liam felt the call immediately. It was as if the star was talking to him, guiding him towards something he didn't yet understand. Without saying a word, he grabbed his coat, put on his boots, and left the house in silence. The biting cold of the night didn't bother him. His heart was warmed by one certainty. He had to follow that light. As he walked, the village seemed to be asleep, enveloped in a deep silence. The lights of the houses were like small candles flickering in the distance, but none were as intense as the light of that star. His steps took him to the woods on the edge of the village, a place he knew well. But that night, the woods seemed different, more alive, more sacred. When he reached a clearing, the starlight became so strong that he had to cover his eyes for a moment. Then a soft, firm voice echoed around him, even though there was no one there. "Liam, you are chosen." He froze. The voice wasn't human, but it conveyed an indescribable peace. "Your journey won't be easy, but it will be full of purpose. You will be a light to those in darkness. Follow the path your soul shows you. Trust, even when others don't understand." Before he could reply, the star's brightness began to dim, returning to a normal intensity. Liam felt hot tears run down his face, but it wasn't sadness. It was confirmation that he wasn't crazy. There was, in fact, something bigger waiting for him. When he returned home that night, something inside him had changed. He knew he couldn't ignore the call. What did it mean to be a chosen one? He didn't have all the answers, but he knew he had to be ready. The next morning, the village looked just like any other Christmas Eve. People were busy carrying firewood, decorating the churches, and preparing their homes for the festivities. But for Liam, nothing seemed the same. He felt different, as if something invisible around him had hanged. The voice he had heard the night before echoed in his mind. "You will be a light to those in darkness." As he helped his father mend the fence in the yard, he couldn't help but look up at the sky. The star was still there, shining brightly, even in broad daylight. He knew that no one else seemed to notice it, which made the feeling even more powerful. "Is everything all right, Liam?" "You seem distant," asked his father with a tone of concern. "Yes, Dad," he replied hesitantly. "I was just wondering, do you believe that some people are born for something special?" Liam's father looked at him curiously. "Everyone has a purpose, son, but few recognize it. Maybe you have something in mind?" Liam hesitated. He knew that his family probably wouldn't understand what he had experienced the night before. He decided to keep the experience to himself, at least for the time being. In the afternoon of that same day, dark clouds began to form on the horizon. It was unusual for that time of year, as Christmas usually brought quiet snow and clear skies. As the wind grew stronger, the residents of Everbright began to worry. In the central square, Liam overheard the elders talking about a group of travelers who were due to arrive in the village that morning, but who hadn't shown up yet. Rumor had it that the storm might have surprised them on the main road, which snaked through the forest. Liam felt a tightness in his chest. He knew he couldn't ignore it. Something inside him, an instinct he had never experienced before, told him he had to do something. "Liam, what are you doing?" asked his mother, watching him grab a blanket and some flashlights. "I'm going to the main road," he replied. "Maybe the travelers need help." "No, it's dangerous out there," said his mother, trying to hold him back. But Liam just smiled. "I have to go, Mom. It's important." Before she could say anything else, he was on his way. The snow fell heavily and the wind whistled through the trees, making every step a challenge. Liam felt the cold through his coat, but something inside him kept him warm. The star that had guided him the night before now seemed further away, but he could still see it, flickering faintly between the clouds. After walking for almost an hour, he finally heard voices. Following the sound, he found a group of 3 travelers, an old woman, a young man and a child, huddled next to a broken wagon. They were visibly frightened and shivering. "Are you all right?" asked Liam, trying to sound calm. The old woman looked up with difficulty. "We're lost. The wheel broke and we couldn't go on. We were afraid no one would find us." Without a second thought, Liam helped them gather their things and guided them back to the village. The walk was difficult, but his determination seemed to strengthen the group. When they finally reached Everbright Church, where the priest welcomed them with blankets and hot soup, the woman held Liam's hand and said, "You saved us. I knew there was something special about you the moment I saw you." Liam was speechless. He knew it wasn't just courage that had brought him there. It was the call. That night, as the village gathered in the church for an impromptu celebration, something extraordinary happened. The star that Liam had been following began to shine more brightly, casting its light over the church. All the villagers stopped to stare, murmuring among themselves. "It's a miracle," someone exclaimed. Liam felt tears fill his eyes. He knew that the star was there to confirm that he had done the right thing. But he also knew that it was only the beginning. The star continued to shine brightly over the church, as if it were casting its blessing over Everbright. The people, fascinated and moved, were silent for a long moment. It was as if something sacred had descended upon the village. Liam, however, felt differently. As the others looked up at the sky, he felt a weight in his heart, as if the star was speaking directly to him. The old woman he had rescued approached again. "Don't you see, boy? This light didn't appear by chance. It's here because of you." Liam swallowed. He knew there was something bigger going on, but he didn't know how to deal with it. He wanted to run away, but he also felt he couldn't ignore the call. The next morning, while walking through the woods, Liam came across an old man sitting on a fallen log. He was wearing a simple tunic, and his eyes shone with a wisdom that seemed to transcend time. "You must be Liam," said the man, before Liam could even say anything. "Who are you?" asked the young man, surprised. "A messenger," replied the old man. "I've come to help you understand your calling." Liam sat down next to him, sensing that there was no danger there. The man began to talk about the history of the chosen ones, people who, throughout the ages, have been called to bring light to the world in times of great darkness. Being a chosen one is not an easy task, the old man explained. You will be tested. Some will reject you. Others will try to extinguish your light. But you must not lose heart, because your mission is greater than you can imagine. "But why me?" asked Liam. "I'm not special. I'm just me." The old man smiled. "That's exactly why you were chosen. Not because you think you're special, but because you have a pure heart and a light that can illuminate others." Before leaving, the man handed Liam a small medallion with the image of a star. This will remind you of who you are and what you are capable of. Whenever you doubt yourself, look at it. Over the next few days, Liam began to notice changes in the village. Some people seemed drawn to him, seeking advice or simply wanting to be close to his reassuring presence. But at the same time, there were those who avoided him, whispering behind his back. "Who does he think he is?" someone said. "Just because he helped some travelers, he thinks he's special." These words hurt him, but he remembered what the old man had said. Not everyone would understand his light. One evening, while walking through the village, he came across a boy sitting alone on the steps of the church, crying. Liam sat down next to him and asked what had happened. "My family is struggling," said the boy. "We have nothing for Christmas this year." Liam felt a wave of compassion. Without hesitation, he went to his house, took some of the few coins he had saved, and bought bread and candles for the boy's family. When he handed over the gifts, the boy's mother wept with gratitude. "You're an angel," she said. Liam shook his head. "No, I'm just trying to do the right thing." On Christmas Eve, a snowstorm hit Everbright again. Many residents were trapped in their homes, but Liam felt he had to go to the woods, where it all began. The star was shining brighter than ever, and he knew he had to follow it. When he reached the clearing, he met the old man again, but this time he wasn't alone. There were other figures around, each holding a small light. "These are the other chosen souls," said the old man. "Like you, they have been called to illuminate the world. Your mission, Liam, is not only to carry your light, but to help others find theirs." As the old man spoke, the star in the sky began to pulsate, and a deep peace came over Liam. He understood that he was not alone, and that his journey was part of something much bigger. "Now it's your turn to lead," said the old man. When Liam returned to the village, the storm had passed. People began to come out of their houses, looking up at the sky where the star still shone. He felt it was time to speak. Climbing up the steps of the church, Liam held up the medallion and said, "This star is not just a sign for me. It's for all of us. It's a reminder that even in the darkest times there is light, and that light is within each and every one of us." People stood in silence, listening to every word. Some cried, others smiled, and then, as if moved by a greater force, they began to come together, offering each other help, sharing what they had. That night, the village of Everbright experienced the brightest Christmas in its history. Christmas had dawned on Everbright with a brightness that no one could ignore. The star in the sky, which seemed more intense than ever, had transformed the village into a place where kindness and unity prevailed. Liam, however, felt that his mission was not yet complete. As the villagers shared stories around the makeshift campfires, something inside him urged him to return to the woods. He didn't know exactly why, but he felt that the star was calling him again, and this time he wasn't alone. "Liam, are you going out again?" asked his mother, worried. "Yes, Mom. Something is calling me, and I need to find out what it is," he replied, with a firmness that surprised even himself. He took the medallion given to him by the old man and held it tightly as he walked. The glow of the star seemed closer, almost within reach. As he entered the clearing, he encountered the same figures he had seen during the storm. But now, they weren't just shadows. They were people, with different countenances, but with the same serene and determined look. "You've come back," said the old man, who seemed to have been expecting him. "Who are they?" asked Liam, looking around. "They're the other chosen ones, the ones who also heard the call. Each of them has a special light, just like you." Liam looked at the people around him. There was an old man with a peaceful smile, a young woman with a look full of courage, and even a child who seemed to have wisdom far beyond his years. They were all holding objects that glowed faintly, symbols of their own inner light. "Why are we here?" asked Liam. "Because the world needs you," replied the old man. "You have been called to carry the light and spread it where there is darkness. This is the time to join forces and fulfill the purpose for which you were created." The chosen ones spent hours in the clearing, sharing their stories. Each one had faced unique challenges, moments that had shaped and prepared them for that day. Some spoke of rejection, others of loss, but they all had one thing in common: an unshakable strength that drove them forward. Liam realized that he wasn't alone, and that filled him with courage. But there were also doubts. "How can we make a difference? We're just ordinary people," said a young woman called Alara, holding a small flashlight that glowed in her hands. "You can do more than you realize," replied the old man. "The light you carry is not just to light your way, but to inspire others to find their own light." The old man then handed each of them a white candle, simple, but with a flame that never seemed to go out. "These candles are symbols of your mission. Whenever you feel lost, light them. They will remind you of who you are and what you are capable of." When the chosen ones returned to the village, something had changed. It wasn't just the star that was shining. It was as if a new energy had been poured into Everbright. The villagers, previously distracted by their own problems, began to help each other. The needy were given shelter, the hungry were given food, and those who were lonely were taken in. Liam, Ilara, and the other chosen ones began to spread messages of hope. They used their own stories to inspire others, showing that darkness could never win as long as there was light. In one of the village squares, Liam stood on a small makeshift stage and spoke to the villagers. "I know that many of you are afraid of the future. I know that sometimes it feels like we're alone, but we're not. The star in the sky isn't just here to guide us. It's here to remind us that the light is within each one of us. Today, I invite all of you to turn on your own light, helping each other and believing that together we can overcome any darkness." Liam's words echoed like a melody, and one by one people began to bring candles and light them. Soon, the square was full of little lights, each one representing a heart that had chosen to believe. That night, something extraordinary happened. The star shining in the sky began to pulsate rhythmically, spreading its light throughout the village. It was as if it was responding to the unity of the chosen ones and the villagers. People began to report small changes. Broken relationships were restored, illnesses were alleviated, and even the animals in the village seemed calmer. It was as if nature itself had been touched by the light of that night. Liam felt a deep peace. He knew that his mission had only just begun, but he also knew that he wouldn't have to face it alone. The chosen ones were with him, and together they would make the world a brighter place. Before going home, Liam returned to the clearing one last time. He held up the medallion and looked at the star, which now seemed closer than ever. "Thank you," he said, feeling that the star could hear him. At that moment, he made a promise. He would never let his light go out, even when the journey became difficult. He would be a guide, a hope, a living star for those who needed direction. In the weeks that followed, the village of Everbright became a place known for its kindness and unity. People from other regions came to hear the stories of Liam and the other chosen ones, seeking inspiration and hope. The star remained in the sky for many years, but its light was never just a celestial phenomenon. It had become the symbol of something much greater, the certainty that, even on the darkest night, there will always be those who choose to shine. If you want to immerse yourself even more in the spirit of Christmas, listen to stories that touch the soul and be inspired by messages about the chosen ones, this is the place for you. Here, each story is designed to bring you hope, reflect on your purpose, and remind you that you are not alone on this journey. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any content that will light your way through this special season. And in the comments, write, "I want to shine this Christmas." Share your light and join a community that seeks to spread love, inspiration, and faith. Let's turn this Christmas into a milestone of renewal and purpose.